Welcome to the fifth part of Sign In with Apple series. In this part, we will learn about server-to-server notifications, handling session changes within the application, and how we can delete account and do token revocation. Let us understand server-to-server notifications. We have to register an endpoint URL in the Apple developer portal. Then all the events are arrived at the same endpoint. Events are sent in the form of JWT format, which is signed by Apple. It's a token. So there are certain conditions in which the events are fired. First, when you toggle the mail forwarding preference, you either disable or enable it in the settings. When you stop using the Apple ID, and when we delete the Apple ID. So here we can add our endpoint. This comes under identifiers and then in the sign in with Apple configure button. You can go down here in sign in with Apple and click on edit, and here is the server to server notification endpoint. Here you can add the endpoint of yours where you would like to receive the events from Apple whenever a user is changing the privileges, like disabling the email or stopping the Apple ID, etc. Now let us understand the events in detail, how they look like, how the token looks like. So once you decode the token, you will see the payload like this. So this is the first event, email hyphen disabled. So this is called when you disable your email in the settings. Email hyphen enabled. This is called when you again enable back your email in the settings. So let's jump to the settings section and understand where these settings are done. So in this application of mine, if I go in the manage settings and I click on my application, and here you can see this toggle button. So if I disable it, so it will fire the email hyphen disabled, and if I enable it again back, for example, if I turn it off, so it will turn off, and if I enable it again, it will fire the email hyphen enabled. So two notifications will be fired from the server. Consent hyphen revoked. This is called when you stop the Apple ID or you basically revoke the token in the settings. Stop using Apple ID. So once I click on this and I press stop using, then the consent hyphen revoked notification will be fired. And account hyphen delete. This is called when you delete your Apple ID. Handling the session changes. So first you need to have your current user identifier, which is the user you received in the AS Apple ID credentials in the response. Okay. So how we can judge the state? So there are four types of states. Authorized. So it means like the application is already authorized with the Apple ID and you don't need to do anything. Revoked. So this is done when you revoke your token either programmatically or either from the settings, and when you open the application, then you found that the Apple ID was revoked. So you need to log the user out if the user is logged in with the sign in with Apple. Not found, it means that you don't know, like nothing is found in the user base, and it means like you have to show the login UI. So it's the pretty default case when you have not initiated anything. And this is the transferred case in which one developer team transfer the application to another developer team. You have to call this as soon as the app launch. So best bet is call from did finish launching with option. Let us now understand transferred state. This will only be received by the application if it has been recently transferred by one development team to another when the company is acquired or something. So in this case, user identifier needs to be changed and this migration is handled silently. So first we need to check the user credentials on app launch, and if we get this transferred state, we need to do this flow, and this is almost the same flow where we create the Apple ID provider request. The only thing is that we need to pass the user which we have received earlier. Okay, so this is the same API which was used to create a new account or sign into existing. So by adding the current user ID to the request, we can validate the user and can generate the new user identifier that will match the new team. token revocation notification. So you can add this in launch, in did finish launching, and add this notification as well. And suppose your app is running and somebody from the server, your server basically revokes the token programmatically, or you manually go to settings and you revoke your token, you stop using Apple ID, then we will get a breakpoint here in this particular notification, and you can sign out of the application here and whatever the action you want to take. So we'll see this in action as well. So let's move to the application code, and in the app delegate, let's write a function get current state, and in this we will be having the Apple provider object, okay, and Apple provider dot get credential state for the user, and the user ID will be this one, the sub. I am taking it from the identity token. You should save it in the keychain, but for the time being I am just hard coding it, okay. And this will be the state and this will be the error, okay. And I have to import authentication services as well. Now we can have a switch loop, switch state, and these are the 4 states. So I'll just print out the name of the state for now. So this is authorized, this is not found, and this is transferred, and we'll have a default case as well, break. And in the did finish launching, I'll call this, and also I'll write a notification token revoke notification, notif name, dot credential revoke notification, notification center dot default dot add observer self, and I'll just make a selector here, token revoked, and I'll add the selector here, and the notification name will be the notif name and object will be nil, and here I'll just print token is now revoked, and that's it. And I'll go to did finish launching, and I'll also add this token revoked notification. So this will be observed. Now let me run the application and see what happens. Okay, so here I received authorized. It means that I'm already authorized and I'm already logged in with Apple. This is coming because in the view controller, in the view did load, I have checked for the existing accounts. So for this as well, you need to have a check that if it is already authorized, you don't need to make this and pop it up. Maybe I can have a state here, okay. So the state is of type AS authorization Apple ID provider dot credential state. Apple ID provider dot credential state, and by default I'll just make it not found, okay. And whatever the state we encounter, I'll just add this. I'll just initialize this with the state, and for this, if I can write something like if, and I need to reference the app delegate. So UI application dot share dot delegate as app delegate dot state dot authorized, then I should return, okay. Now when I run the application again, let me open the lock. And you can see it's authorized because I'm already logged in with Apple. I'm already signed in with Apple, and the current session is actually logged in. Okay, so this is working fine till now. If we go into the settings, let us go into the settings. Sign in and security. Sign in with Apple. So as we can see here that we have this application in the apps using Apple ID section, and I'll do a token revocation with the use of the service, and you can see that it will get removed. I will not press anything like stop using the Apple ID, and I'll just use the API service, and you'll see that it will vanish from here. So let's go back to the application and let's run the application again. So let us see again in the settings that we already have this application in the section where apps is using the Apple ID, and we will not stop the application from here. We will do a API call and we will revoke the token from there. So we will see this getting vanished from here. Okay, so let us go and see the things. So for the timing, it is authorized. Let us discuss about delete account plus token revocation. When your application sends a request to your app server for the deletion of the user, then your app server should send the request to Apple ID server by using the refresh or access token to revoke the Apple ID. And if it is success, if it's okay and the code is success 200, then you can tell your application that your user is successfully deleted, and obviously the token is also revoked. So this is how the service looks like. So from the top service auth/token, you can get a valid access token if you have a valid refresh token, and then you will call /auth/revoke. The response header code will be 200 if the request is a success and the body will be empty. So you need to send the client ID, the client secret, which we already created earlier, the refresh token, and the token type hint as refresh-token. If you have a valid access token, then you can also send access-token in the token type hint and a valid access token in the token node. If we remember, in the last video, we got all the tokens, access and refresh token, by validating the authorization code. But the client secret we used, which was only limited to 1 hour. So we need to create a new client secret first. So let us stop this and let us open our JWT string and let us create a new client secret. Okay. So we have the new client secret with us. I'll copy this and I'll just delete the old one and replace it with the new fresh one. I'll close it and I'll run the project again. Okay. So for the timing, it is saying authorized, which is fine. Now, since we have the new client secret with us, I'll copy this client secret. So let us see the auth revoke call. So it has a client ID, which is our bundle ID, the client secret which we just made. Okay, and the token type is either access token or a refresh token. So I am pretty sure that this access token which I used is already, it's more than 1 hour now and it should be expired. So I'll use the refresh token here to get the token revoked. So first let us see whether we are having this application in the settings or not. Yeah, we are having it. Okay, so let me first try with the older access token. I'm pretty sure that it won't work. It might give you 200, but maybe it will not work. Okay, so I'll just click on send. It got me a 200, that is fine, but when I click on back and I'll refresh this sign in with Apple, the application is still here, right? Okay, so even in the application I didn't received this notification thing, so this means like token is not revoked yet. Let me run the application again to see whether this is actually revoked or not. So no, it's not revoked, it's still authorized. Okay, now rather than access token, I'll use refresh token, and this is the refresh token which is valid, right? So I have two choices with me. Either I can use this refresh token here, or I can just grab a new access token and then use the access token. So for the timing, let's use the refresh token. Okay, so this is the refresh token, and now let me just hit this request, and it's 200, and you can see that token is now revoked is being called. So this notification gets called, right? And let me take you to the settings screen. So currently it's there. Let me refresh it back, sign in with Apple. There is no Apple sign in application here. So let me again restart this application. Let me rerun this application, and you'll see that it is revoked. The token is revoked and it is coming in the revoked block. So since it is coming in the revoke block, the existing function, check accounts function, is being called. Okay, so this is how the token gets revoked. And when I click on sign in with Apple, I am again presented with the share sheet of using the email and share my email and hide my email, all those stuff. So this is how we revoke the token, and this should be done while you are deleting your account, and this should be done at your backend. So let us try it again. So what I'll do, I'll not do the verification of identity token, but I'll just use the auth code thing. Okay, so here the auth code, right? This is my auth code. I'll go back here and I first get the token using this authorization code, and obviously I need to use the new client secret because the older one is expired. Okay, and that's it. And here I got the refresh token. That is awesome. And since my application is running, let me put a breakpoint here as well, so that you can see that this notification actually works. Okay, view controller, and now since I have the refresh token and even the access token with me, let me this time revoke the token with access token. So I'll use this access token and I'll just write access token and see what happens once I click on this revoke Apple. And again, before revoking, let me show you that this application again is available here. Okay, let me go back to the application again. Since this access token is actually available for 3600 seconds, that is 1 hour, so this is valid yet. So from the access token, this is valid, and you can see that I got a breakpoint here. Token is now revoked, which is the credential revoke notification. So ultimately your token is revoked and you have to perform the sign out in this function. So you can sign out or whatever, clear data, whatever you want, you can do that. And again, going back to settings, again if I refresh it, no application there. Okay, so this is how token revocation takes place from the APIs. And once I click on sign with Apple again, then again I'll be presented with the same sheet. Simple. One interesting thing I saw with the token revocation, I'll show you in a moment what happens. Suppose this app is running. Let me just stop the application and run it again. Okay, so this is giving you revoke, that is fine. I did a sign in with Apple. Okay, this is fine. And I got the auth code. That is again fine. Now let me again stop the application and rerun the application again. So I'm authorized, that is fine. And obviously I'm not supposed to show this login screen since I'm authorized. So this is up to me. But let's say from your application side somebody logs out and still your Apple token is there. So somebody again comes to the login screen and press sign in with Apple. So he won't be presented with the hide my and show my options, email options basically, and the name options. So let me just continue this. So in this case, I again get a auth code and the identity token. So let me copy this auth code. So I got the data here. So I have the refresh token and I have the access token. Now from either access or refresh token, I'm trying to revoke the token. Okay, my application is running. I have a debugger here in the token is now revoked line in the token revoke notification. Now I try to revoke the token. So let me use, let's say, refresh token this time. It doesn't matter if you use access or refresh. And just to make sure the application comes back in the sign in with Apple section. Yes, it is there and the application is still running. So let me copy the refresh token this time. Okay, and I'll just write refresh token here, refresh underscore token, and I click on send. Okay, so the token is revoked, but unfortunately this notification is not working as expected, this token revoke notification, and I didn't get anything in the debugger. I didn't get the debugger here. So this notification certainly fails when you are already an authorized user and you click sign in with Apple again and you get a auth code, identity token, etc. And obviously you don't get the email and the name because this is the second time you're signing with Apple. So in this case, I don't know why this notification doesn't work, but when you go to the settings and you just refresh this page, your application is gone from here first, and second, when you rerun the application, let me rerun the application again. So you will get the revoked credential state, which is fine. But unfortunately, this notification while your app is running, this doesn't work. So for this special case, what I suggest is whenever you are revoking the token from your backend, so once the token is revoked and you get the 200 success, then you can easily uh, inform the application to log out everything. So that callback will act like your token revoke notification thing. This notification is only working if you are adding the observer and for the first time you are getting the auth code where you receive the name and the email. But if you're getting the auth code for the second time you sign in the Apple, this notification is not working. Okay, so you can use and leverage your server for that, and on the callback you can just sign out your application once the token is revoked. Now coming back to the postman, since I know this refresh token is no more valid and it's been revoked with the 200 OK status, so I'll go to this validate refresh request. Okay, and I'll just copy this token and I'll copy the new client secret which I created, and let me try to fetch the access token. So when I do it, it say that the token has been expired or has been revoked. Okay, so invalid grant. So why? Because this refresh token is now revoked from here. So this is how we revoke the token, and this is how we should do it when we are deleting the account. So deleting the account doesn't necessarily ask you to sign in with Apple again. it's not necessary to have a auth code or something. You can keep this refresh token in your server database, since this refresh token never expires until unless any event is done, which is changing the privileges in the settings of the Apple ID. Then only it expires or it becomes invalidated. So you can use this refresh token, and maybe every day you can check it to see whether it's valid or not. And you can from the backend just send the refresh token to delete the account. And on the success, you can make your application sign out. So this is the complete process, how we should do sign in with Apple actually. In order to create services ID for Apple, you have to go to the identifiers and click on plus and choose services ID instead of app ID, and click on continue. Here you can give any name, and I like to keep the identifier same as the apps identifier with a dot service appended at the end. So I'll keep something like this. So this is my applications identifier, and with dot service, it is actually indicating that this service ID is meant for my application. Okay, that is up to you. You can have any other identifier, but just to keep things simple, I like to write this. Continue and register, and that's it. You have made a new service ID, and you can click on it, and here you can see the button sign with Apple. Go to configure, choose your primary ID here, which is your application ID, and these are the text boxes where we'll add domain, subdomains, and the return URL. So basically we are registering our domain and subdomain, and also we are registering return URLs. Whenever your website is implementing sign in with Apple, it is having sign in with Apple, then what all domains are valid. So for example, if your website is xyz.com, or if you have multiple websites, then you can write a comma abc.com. so these are the domains that will have sign in with Apple, and you are registering these domains. And let's say the return URL something like abc.com / redirect, something like this. So this will only be called when you have a successful authorization at your website end using sign in with Apple. So this will be registered, and this might be called. You can read here, this is the same thing, that we have to provide web domain and return URLs that support sign in with Apple, and our websites must support TLS 1.2 or higher, and all the return URLs must be registered with HTTPS. So all the return URLs should be valid, HTTPS:// and your complete path. But in domains and subdomains, you don't need to write HTTPS or www. You need to just write the domain name. That's it. And if you want to have multiple URLs, then you can just comma separate them, and that will be it. So next, so these are the URLs which I am registering for sign with Apple, and done. And I'll just continue, save. Okay, that's it. Then I'll go to services, and in this section you'll see something like sign in with Apple for email communication. So this section is indicating that we need to communicate with the users who have not opted to show my email or share their email. They have opted to use the Apple's private relay service. So how can we communicate with those users? So I'll go to configure and click on email sources. So if you read the above description, it is saying that all the email addresses associated with your registered domains will be able to send and receive the message to and from the customers using Apple's private email relay service. So suppose a customer has not shared his email, so his email will be something like abc@privaterelay.com for the Apple. But how we can send the email to that customer, because that is not an actual email. So this is the setting where we can do that. So we have to first register our domain. For example, our domain is abc.com or xyz.com, both of them. And let's say we have an email address something like no reply@abc.com. If you have multiple email addresses, you can write comma and you can add the multiple email addresses. So this is indicating that whatever the email is coming from no reply@abc.com, that will be bounced by the Apple to the original email box. So this will shoot an email to the Apple's private email relay account, and then Apple will bounce that email or forward that email to the actual email account which is associated, which is not shared by the customer. So ultimately customer never shares the account, but he can get the emails and proper communication for which he has signed in. So this is the way we can have this thing working, where we want to have the whitelisting of all the domains and subdomains and also the email addresses, which Apple will allow to forward the actual communication or the email coming to the private email relay service to their original inbox. Make sure to add a comma here and then click on next, and these will be the domains and the subdomains, and register, and that's it. So you can see that the SPF is valid and it is ticked in green, and that should be ticked in green. That's it. And this is all we need to do if we want to do the Apple email communication for the private relay services. In the next part, we will try to understand the basic problems we face while doing sign in with Apple and common SSO problems.